Hello, hi everyone, welcome. Happy to have you join us for the third webinar that we're having on setting up HoloBoard and the testing environment. I hope everyone joining us from India and abroad are safe and healthy. We are living in very unprecedented times, and all we have to do is all sail through it together. So good wishes and good health to all of you. So, starting with the agenda of this entire session that we're hosting today. So, at this point, sorry, yeah. So at this point, most of you have explored the SDK, you have received a hollow board, or are in the process of receiving one soon. And you've reached that point in your development process where your application is ready on the editor, and all that's left is to test it on the emulator you have handy. And so that you can send us the bills and we can provide you with the appropriate feedback. So, kudos for reaching that tipping point. And, this interactive session, which is, being led by Devesh, will further help you get a hang of HoloBoard, where, he will walk you through the setup of the companion app, build properties, inserting phones in HoloBoard, and of course, test the final build. After which, what we will also do is that we have some of our key developer partners who will be sharing their experience working on HoloBoard. Some problems that they faced, how did they solve them, and not all of them are actually problems. Some of them are actually some of them actually had a lot of fun while working with HoloBoard also. And of course, towards the end of it, they will also be sharing some advice about like their whole development process, where did they sort of come through workarounds, and this generally like why they're passionate about the work that they do. And then last but not the least, we will open the floor to all of you for questions. So I'm going to ask Devesh to take it over from me now, and we're kickstarting this entire webinar.
Yes, hi. Hi everyone. Thanks, Ashika. Thanks, Arnav, for arranging this. How's everyone doing? Hope hope there's everyone's safe. Everyone's sort of being able to sort of cope up and sort of manage and sort of just staying healthy and keeping the spirits up. As Ashika mentioned, there's definitely a lot of strength that I think we as a community and as a country need to draw and obviously sort of a lot of help and a lot of I would say contribution that we can sort of do as sort of individuals to sort of make sure that the people around us are safe, and I just would probably like to I mean at times like looking at all of these news and sort of reading about it or even hearing about it, makes us maybe feel a little sad. But I think I would just like to sort of say that, with this small sort of family here, that I mean, sometimes it's sort of just okay to sort of feel a bit sort of disheartened with what's going, and just knowing that like we'll sort of just sort of pass through this and come out stronger than before, as a community, maybe health infrastructure wise, and also sort of as being more humble and more sort of helpful towards others. So I think I mean that's just on the I think current sort of current affairs and the current sort of situation. I think moving on to what we have been sort of doing over the past couple of weeks and months, and I believe this is our third webinar. Arnav, is that correct? This is our
Yes.
third webinar.
Yes, that's our third webinar, and excited to see the response that we've got so far.
Yeah, and I think over this sort of having sort of hosting this third webinar and sort of being part of that whole Discord community, growing, learning, making some mistakes, correcting them, and sort of sort of keeping the whole communication going. We've definitely sort of seeing a pattern, some situations where excuse me, where some of our developers sometimes struggle. Maybe there is sort of maybe some communication gaps that we would like to bridge. And the last two webinars have primarily been more of sort of us informing, or us conducting these webinars as more of a one to many kind of a delivery mechanism. Whereas this one, we wanted to sort of keep it more more interactive, and more to understand where do you see the most challenge, especially when it comes up to setting up the HoloBoard and your testing environment. So of course there are these steps that you see in front of your screen, and I can sort of take those steps one by one, and that's sort of one way to do it. But I do believe that since a lot of you guys have been building apps already, so many of these steps might already be redundant for you, because you've been doing that, and you really can't sort of publish a build or can't test a build without having done these. So having said that, I think what would be really wonderful for me, to sort of know which area should I focus on more specifically, and where can I answer more sort of questions directly. So would love to probably just hear from you first, in the chat, that how, or rather where in this step do you generally falter, or do you generally are not too are not too sure, or maybe the documentation isn't detailed enough, or there is some ambiguity in any of these aspects, that I should definitely sort of spend in the majority of the time on. And if you feel that you've confidently been able to sort of do this, and have been able to set up your HoloBoard, and have successfully tested this environment, and that's not the challenge, then you can also say that I don't have any challenge here. And then we have the second half of the webinar, or like the later section, we can discuss about the general top issues that you sort of generally tend to see when upgrading to a newer version of the SDK, so that we can also sort of smoothen that out. So I think we can probably begin by hearing a bit about what are the general problems that you face, and this is specifically with the HoloBoard and your testing environment. We are not talking about any specific SDK issues that you may be happening, or having, and sort of these bugs that you sort of see. So not focusing on that immediately right now, but overall, do you have, or do you still have any issues or unknowns, or are you not clear about how to set up your HoloBoard, and sort of and then how to set up the GeoGlass app, and how to sort of test your builds? If you don't have any issues, then you can probably give a thumbs up, or just say, I think, yeah, this is pretty sorted. Okay, so Tushar Saigal says, for me it has been UI. The UI is working perfectly on the Unity environment. Okay, build on HoloBoard, it sort of vanishes. We have integrated the SDK, but when we write it as a HoloBoard, control is not getting treatment. Okay, I'm going to explain very well, but I would like to know some mechanics and sample codes. Got it. Okay, so I'm gonna take these questions quickly. So Tushar, when you're saying, for me it has been UI, your UI is perfectly working on the Unity environment. Could you sort of elaborate? What does this mean? Your UI is working perfectly in the Unity environment. Do you mean that it is working fine on the editor and it's not working fine on the glass? Is that what you mean, or rather on the HoloBoard? Is that what you mean? Tushar Saigal, I think you can unmute yourself and sort of.
Hi all.
Yeah, got it. So it's not working. Yeah, it's not working on HoloBoard. Okay, so.
Yes, the UI is working perfectly when I'm working on the environment, but when I'm testing it on HoloBoard, the UI that I have set up on the SDK, the camera setup, that UI I'm not able to see in the Holo board, but instead of but the other UI like the start game and all are perfectly working on the Holo board. This is what is happening with me.
Okay, so I think this is sort of like a development issue. So I will take it up near the end. I will surely get an answer for that though. Then
Okay.
Yeah, let me sort of just wrap up, or rather first let's I would like to focus on the whole setting up bit, and then I will
Okay.
take up
Yeah.
more specific issues like this for sure.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
have integrated the SDK, but we try to test on Hollow board. The controller is not getting determined. So Vaibhav, do you mean to say that your controller is not getting connected?
Yeah, so controller is getting connected, but when we try to click any action on our app, it is not, we are unable to do that.
So you can you can see the controller and everything else is fine. Is
Yeah,
what
see,
you're saying?
no, we are unable to see the controller. See, in your that companion app, we are able to connect the controller. Okay, so when we try to use the controller in our app, it is not working.
Okay, so when you say it is not working, do you mean to say it's not visible?
Correct, it's not visible.
Okay, understood. Understood. And this is specifically in your application, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And have you done any tweaks to the prefab to the JMR SDK prefab itself?
Yeah, I think Gaurav has suggested some step. We tried to follow those steps, but still there was issue.
Okay. So I think so let's and so I'm sort of just going to take one thread like this and sort of answer a question in a very generic manner, which is how do you identify whether a particular issue is happening because your environment isn't set correctly, or is it happening because the SDK is either not used or imported correctly? So the way that the most easiest way for you to do that is if you go in the companion app and sorry, I mean the whole GeoGlass app, and if you go on the on the App Store, let me quickly bring up my sort screen here. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, I think something is wrong with my screen sharing. So, yeah, so when you go into the companion application, and if you go into the App Store, there are a couple of applications that we've uploaded onto the store, which are sort of working well. So I think the first thing that you can perhaps do is sort of just take a quick download of any of these applications. There's GeoSavan from our side. There is a bunch of the fellow developers applications that are also sort of present there, and you can sort of use that to just see whether you are able to see the controller and whether everything is sort of working fine onto your headset. What
Yeah,
this
that's working fine. Yeah, I have downloaded the other apps and it's working. The controller is working fine with that app.
Fair enough. So then that means your environment has been set perfectly.
Yeah.
There is probably some challenge in the way that you are either integrating or using the SDK. So I will
Yeah.
again address this a little later.
Okay.
I'll come back to it. All right. Then we go to Bhanu Teja. I think that is a great recommendation that you sort of had put in. We'll sort of surely take it up and sort of add in those details. True. Many times app is running but camera movement is freezed using 4.4.1 SDK. App needs to reopen from companion app. Okay, so so Mehul, again, so quick, can you as I said, right, just what I answered right now, a lot of times to just understand whether there is an issue happening with the dev environment, or whether there's issue happening with the with your particular application or with your instance of that SDK. This is one quick way of sort of just checking, the one that I mentioned earlier, wherein you simply download any of the existing apps and see whether that is getting stuck or not. Beyond that, there is also another thing is that you have the emulator sort of that is provided along with the GeoGlass dev release application, which is the whole companion app sort of dev release application. And excuse me. So let me sort of spend a little bit of time in just sort of highlighting on, or sort of just giving you an inside peek on what exactly is, what do we mean by the dev environment, and how does the the whole ecosystem work. And I think that will probably help you to sort of logically at times come to a conclusion whether your dev environment is not set up properly, or whether the SDK, or you're facing certain issues within the SDK itself. So and sort of and just once I'm sort of through with a certain explanation, I obviously sort of have more questions to be taken up in this case. So to give you a general idea, the companion application that we install, or rather that you guys install, right? Think of it as like a very thin sort of OS that we are wrapping up onto the phone, the phone's Android OS. And I'm saying think of it like, I'm saying obviously it's not an OS, like it's an application at the end of the day, and it's definitely not the OS, but think of it like an OS, meaning that it has a bunch of services that this companion app sort of installs onto your smartphone, onto your Android application. Now, what this service does is this service is responsible for connecting and sort of communicating with the underlying hardware interfaces for beat tracking, be it for Bluetooth for interaction, and the microphone for voice, etc., 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 and provide that to the SDK as an uninterrupted resource, or as a resource which your SDK can sort of pick up and use at any instant for whatever is sort of required. Now, when you notice, for example, a tracking issue, right, which I think, which is why we're discussing this particular aspect of it, there could be two particular reasons for that. One is that maybe the companion application itself is, and the companion application, and by that I mean that the whole service layer that it has installed onto your smartphone, maybe that has run into some issues. Maybe there are some errors that have occurred there, which means that data is not sort of going to your application. And the second is that maybe in your application, you have there's something which has gone wrong. Maybe your code is going into an infinite loop, or for whatever reason, the application is not able to communicate with the tracking, or with any of these services. And this is not specifically to tracking. This is for anything. For example, if you don't see the controller there in your sort of in your device, if you don't see, let's say, you try to use voice, you said something, but you're not getting a response, and you're not getting a proper error page. What you can do is you can open the emulator application, right? And you will see that it has a bunch of statuses. It has the controller orientation, the controller button statuses, and the device orientations that it shows. You can always quickly have a look at that and sort of just see whether when you're moving your head, is the device orientation moving? When you're moving your controller, is that moving? When you're clicking on the buttons, is it registering those clicks or not? What 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 that allows you to sort of understand is that the underlying services and the underlying dev environment itself has not sort of run into issues, is not sort of crashed, or is healthy. And beyond this, if you are still facing these sort of either hanging issues or any other bugs, then at least that the whole dev environment itself is proper. Maybe there's something more specific that I'm doing wrong inside the application, or the way that I'm using the SDK. So at least it helps you to communicate better with us, that yes, I have verified, my controller got stuck, or my head tracking got stuck, and I verified in emulator, I'm seeing the data coming. So which means there's something more specific to the SDK, to this release version of the SDK, or maybe the way that you're implementing it, that is causing this issue, and helps us to reach a conclusion much faster. So that so give you an idea of the overall sort of dev environment when we sort of speak about it. Taking a step ahead, what are some of the most general issues that we have seen when folks complain about either not seeing, maybe the camera is getting stuck, or the controller is not visible, or any of these things like that, is generally if you end up breaking the prefab itself, if you basically end up unpacking the GeoGlass or the GeoMix Reality prefab, and you position things according to yourself after breaking that whole hierarchy, that's definitely one of the biggest sort of things that we have seen that generally tends to sort of lead to these issues. So if you really have to do that, maybe what I would highly recommend is for you to rethink of why would you need to do that, and is there any way for you to do this without breaking up that whole prefab. You can move that prefab itself wherever you want, but breaking it up might lead to some unstable and sort of known behaviors, wherein your test environment will always be perfect, but your SDK itself might, work in an imperfect manner. So that's another quick tip that, we've generally seen that has been, immediately helpful in sort of solving this primarily. Okay. So Mehul, this was an overall answer, but I think more specific to what you are facing as an issue with this particular release, perhaps I would like to take it up as a second part of this sort of webinar. Alok, this is more of a sort of feature compatibility aspect, so you can absolutely implement WebRTC within GeoGlass SDK. So I think I also, we also get a lot of questions like these. Can we implement blah 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 within GeoGlass SDK, right? So I want to fundamentally also help clear out how do you judge without our answer, without sort of a question to us, whether something is going to be compatible with GeoGlass SDK or not. So GeoGlass SDK is just another plugin inside Unity, right? It does not really replace Unity. It does not do anything with majorly with Unity. All it does is it's a plugin which does what? Which changes the rendering setup, which means it changes the camera settings. It adds 2 cameras. It sort of adds some distance between those, etc., etc., etc. Additionally, it allows you to sort of add interactions on top of it. And thirdly, it has some sort of build settings that is required for that application to run. Now, as long as the plugin, the second or the third plugin that you're using, that particular plugin does not either affect the rendering immediately, it does not affect the interactions immediately, and if it does not affect the or require a certain build conditions or like a build settings which are not in line to what the build settings are in the documentation that we have, then you can safely assume that this application or this particular SDK or any other plugin is going to be compatible with the GeoGlass sort of SDK, as long as, of course, it's compatible with Unity. So to give you a quick example, for instance, let's say if you have a plugin which greatly enhances the post-processing effects on the render onto the render, right? Or let's say you have a particular plugin which tweaks the camera settings so that you can maybe use like a Cine Machine or something like that to move the cameras, right, separately. Now these generally automatically will be not compatible with our SDK, because as I said, this is going to sort of modify or sort of change the rendering process that we currently have, that is in control of the GeoGlass SDK within that particular application. Similarly, for example, if you import some core input extension which sort of extends Unity's event system and gives you a separate interface to use it, or it implements or rather extends Unity's UI system and sort of enhances it, there the answer is not very clear. So there obviously you can reach back to us and we can sort of help you whether there is an exact compatibility there or not. But for instance, since it is touching the input, and again the GeoGlass SDK is responsible for modifying the whole input mechanism so that they are taken from the controller clicks and etc. You can assume that that will have some challenge in sort of being compatible. And third and most important is the build configuration. So for example, we do have some restrictions at the current moment with the build settings that you can use for the SDK. So for example, OpenGL 2 is supported. Vulkan and 3 are not currently supported. Multi-threaded rendering and multi-view rendering is is a feature that we're working on, so it's not currently immediately supported. So if you have a plugin which has their own build settings, which when you look at the documentation and you realize, oh, you know what, this requires this particular build setting, but Jivlas SDK says that we have to do this, then you are for sure going to maybe not have much success in integrating that until we can resolve that particular sort of dependency. So I hope that sort of answers your question. So in very short way to answer, WebRTC, yes, because it does not change your build settings, it does not change your input settings, it does not change your rendering. All it does is it sort of allows you to send messages and add video calls in your application. So it's just another component within Unity that you are sort of using. Savan, you've asked, there is an orientation problem with the UI while testing it in HoloBoard. So could you elaborate what do you mean by an orientation problem?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, Adesh. So a problem is that we need to set the device at a particular angle to see the UI. Okay, and because of that, there is the UI gets floating around and we can't see it in front of a screen.
Okay, understood. So before I answer this question, some prerequisites, for you to check whenever you are facing any such issues, right? That you've installed an application built from HoloBoard, and when you're putting it inside when you're putting it inside the board, you are always having struggle to find it in front of you, even though you the UI in front of you in the editor mode in the world, right? If that is happening, there are two primary culprits, or rather two primary things that you have to double check that I am following both of them. And if you're still seeing it to be not coming properly, I would ask you to check that again. The reason being that there is only these two settings which can make your UI not appear in front, as long as in your Unity 3D world space it is put in front, not as a child of the camera, but in the 3D world space. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Apologies, Aishika, for kicking you out from sharing your screen. And sort of, and I'm hope you guys can see my screen first. If somebody can confirm, or Navishika.
Yes.
Okay, HP. Great. So if you just go onto the documentation, and if you sort of jump to publishing to target device onto the left hand side, right? Of course, each and every step here is a maker or a breaker for for making sure that your application runs. However, there is one super important step which which a lot of times we tend to forget, and that plays a huge role in whether you're able to see the UI properly in HoloBoard or not, and which is basically this. So under resolutions and settings, presentation tab, sorry, setting the default orientation to landscape left. If you leave it to auto rotation, or if you leave it to any other setting, what you will see is that you will not be able to achieve any sort of configuration of putting the phone inside the HoloBoard, which will let you to see the UI exactly in front of you, how it is coming in, your perhaps your editor. So if you put it auto rotation, what tends to happen is if you put the phone in one orientation, the phone screen rotates and it it will come up. When you put the phone, you rotate the phone again and you put it again, the screen again rotates because it's an auto rotation, and you will never be able to meet that particular thing. In any other setting, which is portrait or landscape right or anything else, you will never be able to achieve that particular thing. So this is the first thing that you have to double check, that whether it's on landscape left. Yeah, and then the second thing that you have to check is that's the first half of the story, which means you are telling that the UI has to be rendered from the left to right, which is in this sort of the way that I'm seeing the whole phone right now. And then the second thing, make sure that you're putting the smartphone in exactly this manner. And what I mean by exactly this manner is that you can't put the smartphone where the camera is facing this side. You can't put the smartphone wherein the screen is sort of not facing away from you. There is only one configuration in which you have to place the phone. So it is that your phone's camera is on the left hand side. Or rather the top of the phone is on the left hand side when you're looking at the HoloBoard, sort of in this sort of orientation. So you can always have your HoloBoard on your phone and try to match that, okay, my front of the, or rather the top of the camera is on the left side of the headset, and the display is facing on the outside, or it's facing towards the.
Opposite.
So if you maintain these two steps, it's 100% guaranteed to give you the results that you're sort of trying to see.
Okay. Thank you, Devesh. I'll do that.
Right. Tried playing the. Okay, but Unity WebView feature was creating build issues. I had used this Unity WebView plugin with JavaScript, so it was creating build issues, so I had to remove this feature completely. Okay. So I think probably we will have to have a more detailed or separate discussion on this, on what do you exactly mean by build issues, because I do see that this plugin tries to change some of the build settings internally, or some of the build configurations internally, which might just mean that some tweaks might additionally be required to make them sort of go back to default, and it's sort of something like that. So I think Bhanu, we can connect offline for sure if there's any sort of challenge there. Ananda, you have a question? Try playing the balloon game Fruit Ninja. You said able to play the game but not able to see real-time camera. See a black screen instead of camera feed. So are you expecting to see a camera feed on the background of your AR device? Is that what the answer is, Anand? And you can unmute yourself, and maybe you're on sort of mute. Okay, in any case, I think what I do understand from this question is that you're expecting the camera feed to come in the background. Now, the camera feed, why is the camera feed sort of put into the background for mobile AR applications? Because mobile AR applications does not allow you to see the real world through it. It's a solid device. So literally what they do is they put the camera feed behind it, and you can render your VR or your AR objects on top of that. And that's how mobile AR is sort of utilized, which is sort of a video see-through AR, in which you are seeing the real world through a video feed, which is coming through the camera. Now, what HoloBoard and GeoGlass are? These are actual AR, headsets, which means that we don't need to put the camera view, because the whole optics itself is transparent, which means that you can see the real world out there, and the whole AR world, or whatever the virtual objects are that you want to put into your application, they are rendered on, or at least they are made for your eyes to believe that they are rendered on top of the real world. So so I think what you're expecting might be is sort of wrong in a way, because maybe you're trying to extrapolate smartphone AR experience onto a headset based AR experience. But we don't need to show the camera feed, because you are already sort of seeing the real world through the HoloBoard. So I hope that answers your question. Cool. So I don't really see a lot of any other. Okay, everything works fine in the editor, but in the build, the control array vanishes where the scene changes. Any fix for that? So I think definitely looks more like an SDK issue, and that those are things that are separately handled through our sort of Discord channels. So obviously highlighting those there, and we'll get some of the developers to sort of reach out to you and help you out. Definitely, but I don't really see that being any environment testing environment or dev environment issue at the moment, as long as you were seeing the ray at some point. So this feels more like an SDK bug or an implementation bug. So as I said, we can take that up also. Have a question on devices? Sure, Akhil. Honestly, I was expecting questions.
Yeah, hi. So actually, we've tried it on a bunch of devices, including Pixel 2 and A31, etc. Now with lockdown, it's tough to get a 1.7, 1+7. I'm getting it today somehow, but OnePlus 7 Pro doesn't fit. I'm not able to actually. None of us on our devices are able to play the cricket game, as in we're not able to enter it at all. So the bat doesn't actually move. It gets stuck on the, sometimes it doesn't appear, and sometimes it appears, but you can't move it to get past the UI screen. Is this a device issue?
So what do you mean by you can't get past the US screen?
We can't move the bat. So there's no way to control and point to press play to get into the actual game.
Okay, so first thing to check. So as I said, right, the emulator application that you see on, that's sort of, that part of the companion app that has been released. You will see that it has a bunch of data that it keeps streaming, wherein it's with the device orientation, the camera the controller orientation, and the controller buttons. As long as you see some data coming in there, you can be sure that at least in your application or the phone that you're using, it's past one part of compatibility, which is whether the data is being transferred onto that application perfectly or not. Maybe are you on the right OS? Maybe, for example, Android 7, 8, 9. Those are sort of unstable behaviors because we aren't sort of officially supporting that at the current moment. There are some devices in which it works. There are some in which it does not work. And a very quick way to know is when you open that particular companion app, or rather the emulator, you will probably not see any data being populated there. The second thing to check with any phone is obviously you have taken a build, and when you see through the hollow board, whether you're able to see things fairly clearly or not, meaning that there is no doubling or there is no slanting of the graphics, or there is no sort of general distortion of that. So our phone compatibility primarily depends on these two factors, which is one, what Android what Android OS you are currently having, which is it 8, 9, 10, whatever that is, and also what the exact phone's display settings are, which are put by the phone manufacturer. And there is no easy way to sort of know that, because Android is a fairly fragmented system, and it's become super challenging for us to know precisely what phones are compatible. And we apologize for sort of it's not really a great answer to be receiving.
No, that's fine. But I understand you're testing on OnePlus 7 at your end, so I'm getting a hold of that today. So hopefully that resolves that.
Sure.
Just one more quick thing. So right now the camera is also not syncing, as Anand had mentioned. Does the camera play any role in the tracking of the 3DoF?
No, it does not.
It does not. So only when you release your 6DoF, then the cameras will come into play, is it?
No, so the camera. So when you say the camera, you mean the camera feed, right?
Yeah, camera feed, and also basically when your GeoGlass actually comes out with its cameras, you'll utilize that to track the controller as well, I presume.
Yes, so we'll be using that to track the controllers, but those will not be overlaid onto the display at all. Those are two different things.
Yeah. I'm asking from a controller perspective.
Yes, for sure. So right now, the 3DoF controllers that we are using does not require this, but as you rightly said, the 6DoF system that we are also sort of working on, and there's a lot of fun stuff happening at our side to have increasing device capabilities, and more official news on that soon. I don't want to.
No worries. So right now we concentrate on 3DoF and try to get our device to make sure that it's working properly. But just going back to that, last question is that if the Fruit Ninja and all are working, the balloon game on a particular device, should that mean that the cricket game would work as well?
Absolutely, correct.
So, but that's what's not happening.
Okay, so then definitely there's something more specific to how you've set up the project, or something more that's going on there, because at any point if there is any one application that is working perfectly fine on your phone, then the compatibility issues goes out of the picture, right? Because it's not that we are giving some special support to some people and saying there's a hack in which you make it work with a particular
Correct.
phone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it generally boils down to something that you may have mistakenly missed or overlooked, which is why you're not getting that same result. So for
sure.
that, I think the first place that I would always go to check is into the publishing settings on the developer or on the docs page, and just following each and every step meticulously, religiously, and seeing, double checking, triple checking that whether you've done that or whether all of these are same or not. Second, as I said, is to not destroy or not unlink the prefab, or not break the prefab, unpack the prefab, and sort of move the individual components around. Let them be as it is. Don't sort of tweak that. Those are the two immediate things that come to my mind. Which are the general culprits in this case.
But that would be for our own applications, right?
Yes, that is an application specific thing, correct. So this is the first you can start. If you've done all of those, right, that is the next. Then the next step is that you should come to us for help, because then then there's something more going on, and we can sort of figure it out together, and then you can know from next time that this is something that you don't do.
So my only thing is we're not able to play this cricket game at all. So I'll try to troubleshoot a bit here and maybe get back to you later on for anything if it still doesn't work with the latest OS, etc., etc.
Yes, wonderful.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Ayush,
thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. So Ayush, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, actually, I'm really sorry, but I'm fairly new to this community and might also start from scratch after this meeting, right? So, is there any Discord or Telegram channel that I can join and get my help?
Yes. So I think Arnav and Ishika can direct you to the right resources and the channels. I think you can connect with them separately post this call, and so we do have a Discord community. A lot of our folks are part of that. So first of all, welcome. In fact, for being a part of this community, you'd find a lot of resources, really cool people who help each other out, and to sort of figure your sort of to get you up to speed and make your first sort of step into this whole world.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome. It's a pleasure. Bhanu, as I said, so exact phone numbers or other phone models, I think Ishika has posted some of them that we know our community has tested and sort of confirmed that these work. We are also always trying to sort of get more phones and to sort of just give an official list that comes out, but it's always sort of things that are incremental. So I would really urge you, if there's any way that you could try it out yourself, then that would be sort of the best place to sort of start. All right. I have Nokia 6.1 plus it's supported. So as Arnav mentioned, there is a physical length limitation for the phone, because of which even if you have everything else perfectly, you just won't be able to physically fit that inside a board. And then there are some more things with related to the companion app services, and secondly related to the rendering itself. So I think a wonderful litmus test, as Akhil I think also sort of hinted at, is just download any of these applications which is there on the Play Store, either JioSaavn or Balloons or anything, and just download that. Just see whether that's working fine or not, whether the tracking is working, whether the controller is working, whether you're able to see everything clearly. And if that is working fine, then there's 100% guaranteed that your application will also. Is maybe there's some just details that you may have missed. That is it. Yeah, so if you have both the phones 6.3, then you will have to physically mutilate HoloBoard to make it work. Which definitely you can do, but I'm not too sure if we'll find success there. It's just that there's a physical limitation to the phone size that can sort of fit into that slot. All right, cool. So I think I have super overshot my whole thing, but I think this is anyways great to sort of really address questions rather than sort of giving out more information. So I'm not seeing any more questions here. So I think Ishika, would you like to maybe take charge and move on to the next bit, and then maybe we can have the SDK thing again later in the end.
Yeah, Devesh, thanks. That was great, and I'm pretty sure that Devesh was able to answer some of the key questions and problem areas that you all are facing at this point. And of course, now we're going to proceed with the developers roundtable, where I would sort of like to introduce some of our key partners and developers, who have reached that as I mentioned stage in their development cycle where their alpha builds are ready and they're close to being finalized for launching on the App Store. So ultimately, like it's the whole Geo XR ecosystem is being driven by them and all of you. So and particularly 3 cheers to them. So to start with, I would like to call Mayank Raj from AJR Mayank Studios. So, Mayank, would you like to talk a little bit about, what was the first mistake that you made when, you started using HoloBoard? And what was the workaround that you found for that particular problem?
Yes, Jessica, thank you. So hello everyone.
Just one. I'm really sorry, Mayank, to sort of just step into this. And Ashika, just one quick question. You also want to just say what's the format that we're using? Like how much time do we have for each sort of speaker, just to sort of shed some light, because I just want to also be wary that some people might have some other commitments at later on, so that we all can. I mean, I've already overshot.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, if like, all of you could just spend about 5 minutes each, talking about your experience, that will be perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I first got the HoloBoard, like setting it up was a little confusing to say the least. The first mistake which I did was open the apps directly rather than open them through the GeoGlass companion app itself. So thus the split screen emulation didn't work. So I wasn't able to view the AR experience. So you need to open the apps through a companion app. That's the first major thing. The second one would be putting the HoloBoard the wrong way. Like that's a common issue. You need to put it in landscape left and then camera facing towards the left, as Devis mentioned. That's an important thing. Like if you get this two right, it should work most likely. And there is a third thing too. After putting on the headset, just try to recenter and then make the text in focus. So most of the times, like during starting the application, the orientation would be much different than what you would get after putting on the HoloBoard. So you need to recenter a few times so that the canvas would be just in front of you. So that's gonna solve most of your problems like inverted issues or like the UI not appearing, etc. So yeah, these were the most common problems which I had faced.
Thanks, man. So yes, this is a very particular problem that most of you face and get stuck at. So also one key thing and great thing about this entire community is that if you ever feel that you're stuck somewhere, you can always ask one of these developers, and I'm pretty sure like they will be happy to help you get through that next stage also. So next I would like to call Jigar from Thunder Game Studio, and for him it was a little complicated to work with HoloBoard initially, but at this point he has been able to even send us the beta build of his of his application. So and that too in a period of just about 2 weeks. So that's great progress. So, Jagar, you were facing some problem with the missing ray and the controllers. So,
Yeah.
how did the community end up helping you, and how did you end up sort of finding that solution?
Yeah, actually, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. Because as I said, starting was a bit complicated. First thing was when we installed a companion app on our testing device, we were using MI Note 3. It's bit outdated version, but we were using that, and it was running on Android version 8. So when we installed that companion app, and we were getting like black screen, it was nothing was coming. Then we tested on other device which was running on Android 10, and it was working on that device. So we understood that this issue is with Android version. So we upgraded that Android 8 to 10 on our Note 3 device, I mean, which is actually outdated. Still, it's working. So I mean, this is one thing. I mean, everyone can understand that Geo app is still working on those outdated devices, but you need, I mean, proper Android version. So after that, I mean, we tried to run on a HoloBoard, but as I said, I mean, Raycast was missing, and we were unable to find where we need to play. But after that, I mean, we followed each step which are given on documentation. Then on each start, what we are doing is doing recenter calibration of that particular app. When we are doing that thing, and after it, I mean, we are getting, I mean, actually perfect output what we are, I mean, what we need. So I mean, this is the, I mean, initial issue what we faced. After that, I mean, during development or even in editor, we got, I mean, same result on, I mean, on HoloBoard as well as on, I mean, actual app on, I mean, in editor. So this is the thing. I mean, if you, I mean, nowadays, I mean, documentation is much better. I mean, and even Discord community is very good. I mean, so I will say that, I mean, if you have any question, you can, I mean, ask to, I mean, Discord community. I mean, they are very helpful and they will give you some solution within time, and definitely, I mean, your problem will be sorted. So this is, I just want to say that, I mean, thanks to everyone, and I mean, keep this community growing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jigar. That was helpful, and thank you for also taking that charge on helping others. Now I would like to introduce VK Samit from Born Monkeys studio. So they have created this very fun game which is Fruits Paper. And for them actually HoloBoard was actually very easy to work with, and they also once they got the HoloBoard shipped to them, they had the device with them. They were actually just trying out different applications on testing them in the on the emulator itself. So, could you, we could talk about some of that experience, please. Hello.
So yeah, setting up HoloBoard was pretty easy. The only thing we were stuck at the beginning was we did not on the HoloBoard emulation. We just connected the remote. For some time, we were scratching our heads. We went to Discord, asked some of the folks who already solved this. So they just pointed out that we did not turn on the HoloBoard emulation in the companion app. That was the only blocker that we had. Apart from that, the experience with the SDK and the overall development was pretty fun. I and especially everyone in the studio really loved the remote because we had Cardboard VR for about 5 years now, and the reason we didn't make any games for that platform was the lack of a remote. So Geo Glasses remote was like a game changer in terms of interaction in AR. And it was pretty much required for the type of game that we were making, Fruit Saver. So we needed a pointer device to kind of make it possible. Without that remote, we would have created an interaction with head movement, which would have not been that great compared to the interaction that we had. The overall SDK process, initially we had like a very small box inside the Unity editor. Eventually, thanks to the Tesseract team, they make sure that it's full screen now, and it has kind of reduced the number of iteration builds that we make. So most of the heavy lifting is done inside the editor itself, and then when we think we've done everything that we want, we would just make a build and just test it on the actual device.
Great. So, and also just a heads up, Born Monkey has actually used the raycasting and implemented it with within their game in a very efficient manner, and it also looks very fun. So definitely, and this application is also there on the companion app for you to test, and just to see an example of how the raycasting can work really well and be implemented if you want to sort of also build more shooting applications or just yeah, I mean, yes. All right, so now I want to have
Shreya, just this one. Shreya, just 1 minute. I would like to step in here. So what I think Samit had just sort of mentioned about enabling the HoloBoard emulation, right? I just sort I just want to share my screen and also just show what that exactly means. Did you see this?
Devesh, your audio is a little muffled. Could you please,
Yes, yeah. So I think
repeat
if
that?
everyone mute themselves, that can generally help. Teams is not really great at multiple. Yeah. Yeah, so what I was saying, and a quick just repeat myself. So what Samit was just mentioning about enabling that hollow board emulation. It's also I think a step that we generally see people missing. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen, open up the documentation here. And the reason I'm showing this documentation is so that you can always go back to refer to where I'm sort of pointing to for a particular for a particular step. So if you go to your companion app for geomixality sort of section, and of course there's a whole sort of bunch of steps on how do you set up your own entire device. And the most important one is to basically select what headset you are actually using this device with. Now, since all of you currently only have a hollow board, so once you click on this particular icon here, you will see this screen wherein there will be no device set. So although you would have done everything wonderfully, getting all sorts of data on the emulator app and everything, you might not. Oh, sorry, I mean you will not be getting the data on the emulator app also. That's probably because you have not set the target device. So you go here and you check you select hollow board. So this is what he was mentioning, that if you don't select this and if you've selected either GeoGlass or no device selected, then you may have done everything perfectly, but you will still not be seeing anything working on your device at all. So this is another thing that people can use. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. That's just wanted to sort of jump in there.
All right, thanks. Now I would like to introduce Pulkit Goglani from Game Nagari Studios. They have created this really another fun game called House Attack, which is a very family-focused and a friendly game wherein it just sort of delves deeper into the nuances of an Indian family structure and the fun fights that take place within their house. So, Pulkit, you were, while creating this application facing certain technical issues, could you sort of, highlight some of those and again, your workarounds for them?
Yeah, sure. The first problem that I faced is obviously the other developers mentioned that you have to put the phone in correct orientation and the camera should be facing towards yourself. So I used VR board basically, the Google board that was famous. So it was very confusing for me in starting, why I have to put it in in reverse. So yeah, that was different thing for me. And the second thing that I faced is basically there is a lag in the game, and the ray pointer was lagging so much in the starting. And I find out that that was because of my device, because as you mentioned that some of the device were not supported. And yeah, so definitely I changed the phone and everything was working. And yeah, and one more thing that happened with me is input. Basically, our game is all about shooting. So we have to know that we have to use all the controls of the controller. So current, in past, 2 months back, the documentation was not that much good, but gradually it improved so well. We don't even have to ask the questions in the Discord after that. But initially, yeah, they were very supportive. In the Discord community. They helped us in every problem. Even if we have a small bug, they helped us. They told us the solutions that what we have to do. So yeah, these are the things that we did. And also one more thing is if if there is a problem in the SDK, you can always go to them. But first of all, you have to try by yourself and try to figure out that it could be your problem. And the jam, the rig, the rig is you don't have to touch it if you don't need it, because it happened with us in the starting. We don't know that it should be remain as it is, and we manipulated it to just test, and there was lots of work. So just make it as it is, remain it, don't touch it, and then test. And if everything is working, then you can just test on that. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Pulkit. That's some great advice out there. Now Ashit Mehta, could you sort of talk about a little bit of the URP and the UI elements that usually are a pain point for you and also for a lot of other art developers. And if you could talk a little bit about that, that will be super helpful, Ashish.
Yeah, thank you, Ishia. Yeah, so mostly the problems that I faced were covered by Mayank only. The initial problems, most of them were faced by me, and they were actually most of the problems are solved by referring to the docs only. So I think that is the main point that other people also mentioned. Other than that, one thing is that when we use URP, so something is happening that the scene is showing up inverted. So because it is mentioned in the docs that we can use URP, but I think that has not been resolved completely yet. So we should avoid using URP at this point. Other than that, one thing is the one thing I faced, minor issue that I faced, it was not minor for me actually. I faced it for about 2 days, that the UI was not showing up. The buttons were not showing up after once I went to the game view and then went back to the home view. So that was happening because I had clicked the pause button. So because the UI is dependent on animations. So if we change the time scale to 0, then the animation will not start. So UI elements will not pop up. So that is one thing that is very nuance that we kind of missed initially. And another thing is that the global listener, that is very important because people will think that it is a controller issue, that controller is not being read by the application. But the main thing is that we have to add a global listener in the script in each scene, so that the scripts can read what inputs you are trying to catch. So, but other than that, I'm very much enjoying the SDK. It is very vast functionality is available for us. So that is a very good thing. I will very much like if the docs can reflect the functionality that is present in the SDK. So that will be very helpful to us also.
Thank you, Ashit. That's helpful. We will take that feedback back. And just a heads up, Ashit has created a very cool hyper casual game, which involves wind speed, interaction, and it's a physics based game. It's also going to be up on the companion app soon. So if you get a chance, you should check it out. Then we have Saurabh Saxena. He's the person who besides all of us is always helping you guys out. So Saurabh, what would be some advice that you can give to all of us, in terms of just building applications for the platform?
So Ishika and sorry, just one second. I just want to sort of step into what Ashit sort of has just mentioned, and thanks a lot, Ashit, for the wonderful feedback. And yes, we are aware the documentation does not currently do justice to a lot of the functionalities, and we are sort of trying to sort of allocate more resources into making that more exhaustive. I think one thing that Ashit mentioned, which is about the global listener, right? I think this is also an issue which I think a lot of people face, and they there's a quick instinct is to maybe come to a conclusion that the controller isn't working, and then he mentioned that you need to add the global listener in every sort of scene in some of these scripts to sort of enable that. And I want to shed a bit of light there of what exactly does that global listener do, and when should you use it and when should you not use it, because it is a functionality, meaning that it's not a prerequisite for a controller to work, but it is allowing the controller functionality to work in certain scenarios. And what are those scenarios? I would like to sort of quickly sort of shed some light on. So again, I'm just going to quickly share my screen so that I'm always pointing to the right documentation page, which you can go back to refer to what I'm sort of trying to explain here. And if you go here and if you look at the add interactions to objects in the scene, you'll see a bunch of interfaces that allow you to add these interactions. So there are back, F1, F2, focus, enter, exit, manipulation, menu, etc., etc., etc. Right, with all of these handlers. Now these handlers, they are responsible for giving you the callback of the particular controller button or a controller action that has been that is provided onto the control, or that is happening onto a controller. But there is a sort of caveat here, which is basically when you point, and this is the step that we often tend to miss. These functions by default, they only work as a specific functionality for the particular object that you've applied this script on, which means that when I implement this functionality and let's say I just copy paste or just download this particular script, which will give me a callback for any button presses, which is back button or even select button or up down, etc., etc., etc. You will see that these actions are not triggered if you just press the back button. It will not be triggered. It will only be triggered when you put your pointer and you sort of gaze your pointer onto that cube, and only then in that particular cube, whatever functionality you have extended or whatever functionality you've added for this button, you will sort of get that functionality. Now, why is this done? So in XR, for example, you might have a cube, or rather, let's say you might have an elephant and you might have a cat. In one is an elephant, one is a cat, and you take the same script, or rather, you take two separate scripts, which you say cat interactable and elephant interactable, and you apply both these scripts to these individual game objects. Now, what you want to do is when I click on my controller while I'm pointing at the cat, I want the cat to sort of make a meow sound, and similarly for the elephant, I want the elephant to make a trumpeting sound. Now, the way that you will sort of the way that you will be able to do that is when you sort of implement this entire script, and you don't have to implement the all the parts, but let's say we take an example of the down hand of the down action, and I implement that particular interface, which is I say on select down. What this allows you to do is that when I'm pointing at the elephant, I can, or rather the script which is attached onto the elephant object, I can write here play elephant sound, and for the cat example, I will sort of put here play cat sound. And what this allows us to do is when you're pointing at the elephant and you click on it, it will only trigger the script which is attached on the elephant interactable, or rather on the elephant object, and it will call this function on that particular interactable or on that particular object, and not on the other one. So that's how you can sort of customize that. I want to implement on select down for both, but I want different functionalities for both. Having said that, majority of the apps and games that you are using, right, it is sort of like a global trigger, which means irrespective of wherever I'm looking, as long as I'm inside this application, if I press on the trigger, I want a fire action to go. What this means is that you don't really want them to be triggered when the pointer is focusing on an object. Rather, you want these to be triggered globally. In that case, what you should do is whichever script you've used to implement this functionality, right? Let's say it's this script itself. In the start function, you simply need to add, this line, which is gmr input manager.instance.add global instance game object. What this does is that it will basically execute the callbacks on this script irrespective of where I am pointing into the scene, which means that, and let me take it to another scenario, which means let's say I have one cat interactable, I have one elephant interactable, and I also want to be able to shoot wherever I'm looking at. And let's say the functionality that you excuse me, let's say the functionality that you want to implement is that on click of either the cat or the elephant, I want them to make this particular sound. And if I click anywhere else, right, then, or rather not anywhere else, but if I click anywhere, then I want to also, maybe fire a particular, action, which is, let's say, a bullet or anything like that. In that case, what you will do, you will be requiring 3 scripts. One, as I said, is the cat interactable, which will apply on the cat object. One is the elephant interactable that you're applying on the elephant object. And in these, you will not be adding the add global listener. You will add the specific functionality that you need in the sort of on select down, for example. And the third script, which is containing the code for what should be triggered at a global level, you will have that third script. You can put that anywhere in your whole system or in your game, not on the same object. Like if a particular object already has iSelect handler implemented, then you cannot put another script having this interface onto that same game object. But in some third game object, you put this and you add that add that global listener in the start function of that. So that what happens is that the cat script is only triggered when I'm looking at that cat and I click on select down. When I look on elephant and I do the same, I can trigger a specific functionality. And additionally, because you have put this third script in anywhere in your scene and you've added a global listener, that will be anyways triggered irrespective of wherever you're looking. So that's why in your particular cases, when you're not adding or when you don't want a specific functionality to be called based on where I'm pointing, but it's more of a generic thing. No matter wherever I'm pointing my controller, I click on fire, it needs to trigger fire. It's a very simple solution that in your start function, you simply need to add these line and you will see that your controller is not broken and sort of is working fine. So I just also wanted to sort of highlight that maybe if it's not very clear from the documentation. Sorry. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Devesh. I hope this particular global listener aspect of the entire SDK is clear to all of you. And if you have any follow-up questions on this, just we'll get to the Q&A session in a couple of minutes, so you can just just raise these issues if you have any. I would now like to call Saurabh Saxena from Delhi Technological Club, and he has been someone who's been helping the entire community end to end, and just some words of advice from him to all of you. Please, Saurabh.
Thank you, Ishika, and thank you, Devesh, for this amazing technical session. And my advice to developer is that select an idea which you love most, which you're passionate about. Like, for example, if you love music, if you love guitar, build that idea. Because if you know an idea very well in detail, you can build amazing things. So that's why I'm so passionate about fitness and yoga and meditation. And my wife is an Indian classical dancer, and she's a yoga practitioner. So what we thought that let's combine our passions and our experience in technology and build something. So we build an app that that teaches yoga practitioners or a user how to do yoga and meditation. So my advice is that suggest build an idea that you love most.
Thank you. That's a great advice, Saurabh, and that's also something that translates to every aspect of our life, not just development. So and again, some final words from Jigar also, if you have any. Jigar from Thunder Games. Hello. All right. Jigar, are you there? All right. So thank you. Thank you. Saurabh. Thank you, Ashit. Thank you, Pulkit. Thank you. VK Summit. Thank you. Mayank. Thank you everyone. For just taking part in this whole developers roundtable. It's an open platform where we also want to encourage other developers to come and talk about their experience, and this will be continued in our further webinars and sessions as well. And of course, if you need any help, you should definitely check out their games and see if there's any particular feature which is existing in their game and you want to implement it in your application as well, and just feel free to reach out to them. We've come to the end of this entire webinar now, and now I want to open the floor to questions from all of you. It could be to some of our roundtable developers, it could be to Devesh, it could be to Arnav and I. So please, it's all open to you guys now.
Yeah, so I think I can cover up some of the questions that initially I had deflected to the later part of this webinar. So quickly going all the way back up. Okay, hold on. So, so for UI working perfectly on the not working perfectly on the Unity environment, right? I think what briefly you had mentioned that your world space UI is working fine, but your camera space UI is not working fine, right? Does that sum up your question, your query properly? And Tushar, this is I'm referring to you, Tushar Saikal.
Yes.
Yeah, so generally in AR and in our sort of specifically with GeoGlass, but in general in AR also, there is no need or there is no utilization or rather of a camera specific UI, because in mobile you have a single camera, in GeoGlass you have two cameras. So if you put a camera based UI, what you might see is that that same UI is not showing on left and right cameras, and there's like an additional overhead to sort of implement that. When we go into XR, right, your screen does not become relevant anymore. Your 3D world is what is relevant, which means that whatever camera specific UI you've put is just some UI that you want closer to the head. So you need to make it as a world UI, and then you need to just bring it closer. If you try to put it as the camera UI, first of all, it's not recommended in general in XR. Second is that it's not going to work also.
Okay, I'm getting your point. I'll try that.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome.
Just another question on this only. So should I not put a canvas which is connected to the GMR rig, because this is what I'm doing right now?
No, you can put a canvas connected to the GMR rig, but the render mode has to be world space. It cannot be screen space or camera space.
This is what I'm saying. The render mode is world space. The event camera is UI raycast camera, and the GMR UI canvas is under GMR rig.
Okay, so instead of putting it under GMR rig, you need to put it inside the head camera.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll try that.
So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that will solve it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem. Control is not getting determined for WebHub. I think you should try out that add global listener thing. Perhaps that's what you might be missing.
Okay, Devesh.
A lot of people sort of missed that initially.
Yeah.
And I hope, as Rishika had also asked, but I hope that was, I did not do a wonderful job in sort of explaining that. But I still hope you got the gist of it, that without the global listener, it's basically specific to an object on which you're focusing. And with the global listener, it's independent of where you're looking at or where you're pointing at. Cool. Okay. Many times app is running, but camera movement is freezed using 4.4.1. Mehul, so as I said, I think first just whenever this happens, just quickly go back and check into the emulator whether you're seeing the data there. If you're seeing the data there, and when you're reporting this issue to us in Discord, it would be it would really help us to narrow down the issue very quickly if you can point out that in the emulator the data is perfectly fine, but my app is still getting stuck. So then we at least know that this is something that we need to solve inside your app. And if it's if the emulator itself is not getting the data, then we can recommend maybe some configuration or some setup step that you have missed, which you can anyways double check on the documentation. But if you obviously need further assistance, it can help to narrow down the effort greatly. Orientation problem, I think we just covered. Savan, Ananda, okay, and WebView is a bit more detailed, is a bit more involved, so I won't be able to answer on this. But you can definitely, I think, post something like this in the feature request. Not feature request, actually. You can post it in development issues itself, and we can see. I mean, I don't really see any challenge in a plugin like this to not work. Although I do know that a lot of WebView plugins need additional functionality to connect the input system, because if they're not using the default canvas inputs, then sometimes we need to specifically pass them the raw controller data, like the raw pointer data in the local space of that canvas, and some drag thresholds, etc., which is a bit more involved. But we can sort of see how can we support that. And Vishwajit, again, first thing to check is quickly to check your emulator app if everything is working fine. Then you can post this issue on us. I mean, either ways you can post this issue on us, but additionally add this detail whether it's working fine on emulator or not, so that we can pinpoint with a more more quality support. So Safiq has a general sort of like a feature question, which is, hi, is GeoGlass supported? Does it support real-world space motion controllers like Oculus Rift Quest? So currently, the headset and the controllers are 3D off, and we are working on something cool also. So we'll let you know. Right now, it's not going to be 6 off in the beginning. Then Express. Links and resources. What are your views on ReviewRP? When should we use it, and is it totally supported? Pulkit, yeah. So I think that's a great question. We did add the support for URP, but we ended up sort of missing a few details out, which makes it supported on the GeoGlass, but there are still some challenges on the Holo board, or for it to work on Holo board. That's why the URP system is actually supported in our. I mean, it's finally supported, but I think there is a final detail that we missed that does not immediately make it work on Holo board, which essentially means that it's unfortunately then not supported right now for you guys, and still requires some work. So we'll sort of also provide an update on that. And someone provided me link to the server. Okay, this is separate. Get application without actually testing it on GeoGlass. Instead, we're testing Play mode only. Absolutely, Code Rumble. So you can there are 3 ways that there are 3 places where when we develop applications that we test our apps on. Most of the time, since taking a build is a huge pain and time waste, or sort of not very optimized. Majority of our development and its testing happens in the editor mode, because it gives you quick feedback, and the entire editor emulator that's there. And I'll quickly bring up that section once again into. So editor emulator is sort of tells you how to use your keyboard to mimic certain functionalities of the controller itself. This is where majority, I would say about 70% of our sort of testing happens during the development phase. Each and every developer does this on their own editor, and sort of before committing those features and sort of pushing it to their respective branches or whatever processes that they follow. At every point, at every some checkpoints, let's say a feature has been completely implemented by that person and tested on editor, then they go and test it on the Holo board as the next step. That's the reason where you're primarily looking at any device specific issues or bugs that you may have inadvertently coded yourself into. Although the SDK fairly does not let you to do that a lot, meaning very rarely will you see issues that on the editor it's working in a certain manner, in the glass it's working in a different, and in glass or in Holo board it's working in a different manner. Functionality wise, majority of the times those are related to the UI. So for example, I think somebody just had a question that they were not able to see it, and making it a child of head instead of rig is something that people tend to miss, and I do think that it's also missing in the SDK. So I'll get that section added. But that's something, and more importantly, your Holo board testing is for generally just seeing whether the UI is visible properly, it's placed properly, it's clickable, am I able to use it and interact it properly or not. And then eventually it's on GeoGlass, because that's sort of the final sort of dev environment, final release environment. So short answer, yes, and I already sort of gave the wrong answer. So yes, can you reduce the minimum battery of the percentage from 22? Really annoying sometimes to charge your phone. So I think that's a good suggestion. We can definitely look into it. So the 20% is actually kept because in GeoGlass we allow people or users to only use GeoGlass up until 20% of their battery sort of phone, and that's primarily the reason that the companion app, since it does not purposely differentiate between a Holo board use case and a GeoGlass use case, that it sort of does this. But I think I can quickly check if there is some quick solution to this, and I can come back to you. Ashit, you have your hand raised. Please go ahead. How can I help you? I think you're on mute, Ashit, if you're trying to speak.
Yeah, sorry, I was unable to post a question in the chat only. So I wanted to ask if the controller can be changed in the middle of the scene, because I am able to change the controller accessing the variable in the start function, but I'm not able to do that on click of a button. So is there something I'm missing in there?
So what do you mean by changing the controller? Do you mean the raycast?
Like yeah, what I was doing is while playing the game I don't need the raycast, so I changed it to head controller, but after I press the pause button, I need to again use the raycast to click the button. I can do that with the head control also, but it breaks the interaction. Like it is not as intuitive to click buttons using the head controller, right? So I need the raycast for that. So in the middle of the scene, I can't change the controller. Is that so? Because it is working in the start function, but it is not working in the middle of the scene. Through the update or the click function, it is not coming up.
Understood. So your game primarily uses head interaction for using the app, is it?
Yeah, actually, I don't even need the because I use the touch interaction, like the 2D
Right.
controller on that. I use that to move my controller for the game. So I don't need them.
Just to add in here, so I think what Ashit is kind of referring to. So basically, the way is to get you a better understanding. For example, when the game runs, right, the main menu has controller ray, but in the game we don't need the controller ray, right? So, but if we pause the game, is there a way we can get the controller ray back, so that it is consistent through his main menu, pause menu, and the ending menu kind of a thing? But in the game, the raycast is not required.
Understood. So Ashit, I think a solution for this is not to switch between head and controller keys, because that's purposely we don't allow that to do it in between of the game to make the experience for the user consistent, because we don't want eventually developers to create an application wherein this is changing mid scenario, because for person who's using the whole system, the whole XR system for the first time, it's already overwhelming. And if they say कि यार अभी ये head से move हो रहा है, अब ये case से हो रहा है, or rather ये controller से हो रहा है, although we have some experience in VR, so we can quickly adapt, but we realize that it's become a lot of overload for them. However, what you can actually do as a solution is maybe control the renderer of the ray itself, so that you disable the renderer. Because I think what you're, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're referring to here is that you basically just don't want the ray to be seen while your gameplay is happening, because it's sort of like unneeded.
Yeah, it is not needed. Yeah, you are right in that aspect. I didn't think of it like that. So okay, I'll try to do that in the next video.
The renderer component and disable that.
Okay, got it.
Awesome, cool. Do we have any more questions? Okay. No. All right. So any more questions on anything that we've sort of been discussing up until now? No questions. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you.
I think one thing to add, Devesh, maybe we can also upload the design assets that we were discussing, right? So a lot of people can kind of refer to those while kind of using and layouting their UI for better utilization of FOV, and also like the placement can be sorted. So we will upload these templates, which is like an Adobe template and the Unity sample scene template on Discord today. You can also refer to those templates so that you can check that your application is optimized in a way that is using maximum field of view, and also the UI placement and alignment is up to mark, right? Any points there which we want to just shed as a best practice for people?
Yeah, so I think there is one sort of template design scene that we provide with the SDK releases. As Anna mentioned, he'll just call that out into the Discord channel as well. And what that Jmar sort of some template scene does is basically gives you sort of like a reference of how it's sort of like a grid layout shown to sort of just signify how is that whole field of view going to actually look like in when you're looking it through the GeoGlass. And what the template also does additionally is to set a boundary for yourself that this is my canvas, and if I go beyond this, then the user is going to have to look around a little bit, which is how you can make a conscious decision that okay, now I want to position it like this so that it covers the entire field of view, or maybe a little bit lesser or more on it. So it's sort of just like a visual reference that's there. The XD template itself, that what that does is it's sort of it's sort of helps you to use those components to build your own UI if you follow XD, develop or XD design as a step in your design and development process. So it's sort of just like a helpful tool on that. And we do have a toolkit update that we've been working on that will be sort of released, and accordingly the XD template will also be updated. So for the time being, Arnav will upload the one which is which is relevant to the current sort of system, and then we'll also update those as the toolkit itself gets an update. It's a visual revamp, it's a whole interactive usability revamp, and the whole animation sort of revamp as well. So that's also going to be coming out soon into a release.
Right. Thanks. So yes, I will upload these design resources also on Discord, so it becomes handy for you there. So that is one. And I think the second point here, what I want to kind of highlight on is that please feel free to use Discord, and please keep posting your queries and questions there. Obviously, there could be sometimes that the solution or the response to it is delayed, but please feel free to kind of follow up there so that you can get the best results and the best solutions to your problems. So I think that is the only thing I want to highlight here. And thanks everyone for spending some time here. And Ishika, just last thing you want to cover and wrap it up?
Yes, definitely. Yes, Discord is the best place where you can get all your problems solved. And of course, I want to wrap it up by also giving you all a reminder that, if you haven't filled in these dates for your demo, alpha and beta builds, please do so. This is important for us to track all your progress and to also give you the right support when it is the right time to do so. So, just again, a reminder to do it if you haven't done so already. And, thank you everyone for, joining the, webinar. It's, ultimately all of you who are driving this entire ecosystem and, helping, to get XR up and running in India. So, thank you, and hope to see you on Discord and in the next session that we do host.
Yeah. Also, just one quick last thing. I was actually trying to just open my Unity to show you the sample scene. It wasn't really working at that point of time. I finally got it to work. So, and sort of just going back quickly, this is what I was referring to when I was talking about the whole demo grid that you see. What this allows you to do is, so this whole grid that you see, we've created this, optimized in a way to, how we know that users generally tend to, focus their attention on when they are, using GeoGlass. So this area is like the, the heart center of where the user's attention sort of, draws into. I don't know how many of you, sort of lean into usability researches or sort of thinking about how do a person interact with any sort of digital content. And there's obviously a huge sort of material and huge insight into sort of viewing patterns and gaze patterns that a lot of websites deploy or websites use. And because they know that the users, they start reading from the top of the website and they sort of start trailing near the bottom. So that's why they put the most important information that requires users' attention on this section, and the least one on this sort of section. In a similar fashion, what we've tried to do with this template is give you a hint of that, and you can use that as a sort of an indirect indicator of which area should you maximize for catching the user's attention, which essentially means that any UI you put here will not be the first thing that they notice. It's just a subconscious response that that they don't tend to look up much, And for some reason, we've also realized that these two are also regions that they don't immediately tend to focus on. Their focus is that they start the application, they look straight, they gaze left, right, and they gaze down. So that's why this is the hotspot, like where you will put majority of your content. Not to say that you can't use the rest of the UI. You can definitely use the entire world in this whole scenario. But this is where the whole optimization comes in. And also, I would like to at the same time point out to the design documentation. It has some great references on on some ergonomics of placing content in XR, and sort of tells you how do you sort of optimize that as well. So that whole main content zone is where you keep majority of your content in, because users by default, they generally don't have the intuition to look left, right, or turn back. So if you have put some, like if you started your game and your gameplay is happening here, or it's happening here, you will most likely miss the user's attention completely, and they will say ki, this app is not working, or it's buggy or something like that, it didn't load, and they won't go. But also this is the curiosity zone. So if you want to do something really cool, let's say you want to have a whisper, like some character whispering into your ears, or some special effect that you want to draw the person to give them some sort of surprise. This is great for inviting or exciting those emotions, because it's sort of a surprise for them कि अरे पीछे भी कुछ है. So that's why there's that. So just I think knock yourselves out. There's sort of a good amount of research backed data that we have here, which will in general, as you move on to from development issues to design issues to user issues to eventually delivering value to the user, this section of design is going to become more and more important, because your app will remain the same, but now what you're trying to do is maximizing the kind of attention that the application gets and the kind of usability that the application gets. So this is definitely worth sort of checking that whole thing out. And this is what I was referring to. So more detailed out here is the MR gaze pattern. So just like I was talking about the website gaze pattern, these red blocks are where users spend majority of their time looking at when they're reading a document. This is a very well-known research by, I don't know, somebody, but it's pretty well-known research. Similarly, we did some research and also took some, took a page from Oculus, Magic Leap, and HoloLens researchers and compared notes. And the user looks into the front immediately, then they tend to gaze left and right, then they tend to gaze below, then they tend to gaze on the top, and lastly they tend to gaze at their controller, just to see whether my controller is visible in XR or not, or in VR is visible or not. So that's why these numbers denote the order in which the user generally tend to focus their gaze on, and this helps you to sort of curate that experience in a more more intuitive manner for the user. So this is the template which Arnav will upload, and you can sort of use this grid as a marker for that. Yeah. Awesome. So as Ishika said, wonderful. We always enjoy conducting these sessions, and it's always good to hear your feedback, your responses, what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right, and keep that going. And we'll definitely do everything best in our ability to make sure that the ride is as wonderful it is for you as it has been for us up until now, and to plan to keep it like that. And stay safe, stay healthy, connect with your loved ones, give them reassurances, be as much of help to the community as you can, and we'll surely be coming out of this stronger for sure. But all it needs is for us to be, I think, taking all the necessary precautions and also helping each other out. So I think until next time, have a great days, weeks, and we'll sort of come back to you with another session sort of soon. Till then, take care and stay healthy.
All right, thanks Devesh, and thanks everyone for your time. I think we kind of extended this session, but I think it was a great session which was very interactive. This was the first time we tried this, and I think wonderful hearing your feedback. Looking forward to making more sessions very soon. Thank you so much everyone, and be safe.